now.
Hi, welcome. Thank you back. Thank you for joining me today on Kingdom of Healing. This is Kimberly Mateo, and I'm a certified naturopath and a master herbalist. I started my journey into natural healing in 1977. For those of you seeking advice, it's my hope that 37 years' experience will help you or a loved one overcome your health challenges. Today I want to talk about some cancer-causing foods. 16 of them. And, there are so many diagnoses every day. And I've talked a lot about cancer on my shows here. And, we really need to be responsible about what we're purchasing and what we're preparing and what we are consuming and feeding to our family and loved ones. So it's just our choices can be sluggish and too laid back. And, you go to the grocery store, and I've said this before as well, take a look at what's going on in those carts. there's some really bad food choices. And, and the result of, what you eat today will walk and talk tomorrow is take a look at those who bring their children. And, hey, I've even seen some episodes with adults, bickering over what box of junk food is going to go in the cart. So, it's really, really bad on what it does as far as creating an acid environment in the body, which disease and bacteria will thrive. And with that comes, the breakdown of cellular tissue and, slowly but surely destroying the immune system. So, I want to go through kind of 16 foods that you need to really take a look at. And the first one I want to talk about is the number one is the microwave popcorn.
Okay. All right.
It is just... It's really bad stuff. Really bad stuff. The bags are lined with the chemical abbreviated PFOAs, and it's in all Teflon coating. And I warned people years ago about get rid of the aluminum pans that were lined with Teflon. And you stop and you wonder, you see those Teflon pans that are missing all those parts of Teflon that have been scraped off. And it's like, where do you think that Teflon is at? Well, it made it into your digestive tract. That's where that Teflon went.
Wow.
So this PFOAs, this is a chemical that is in these lining of these bags, and that is a component of the Teflon coating that was put on pans. Because I've advocated stainless steel for decades. Quite frankly, I grew up in a restaurant family, and that's all my grandmother used was stainless steel. Even when when I had a restaurant and a few delis, and when people ask me to cook and I do something for a wedding or something like that, for a friend, I pull out all my big commercial stainless steel. Everything's stainless steel. I don't use aluminum. So anyway, the other thing is there is another chemical called ACT. And that is something that is also used in the lining of these popcorn, the paper popcorn bags. And the where these are manufactured, the ACT, this chemical, it causes lung disease. So there's a high rate of lung disease that's been diagnosed with a lot of the workers at the factories where they make these bags for the popcorn. That's the microwave popcorn. So, here you're exposing it then to the cooking it, by radiation and shaking up the molecular structure to create the friction and the heat, which is all, unnatural. And so, the other thing is stop and think about the popcorn itself. It's very fibrous. It's like a sponge. And so this off gas of these chemicals, as they're being then, microwaved, all of this goes into that popcorn.
Yeah.
So, get rid of the popcorn, the microwave popcorn.
See, my daughter loves that stuff, so.
No.
Personally, I
Number
remember the
one,
old time
no.
bags of popcorn.
Yeah,
that you buy,
the old Jiffy bag.
Right,
The
man,
Jiffy bag that was slid around under high heat in the aluminum tin pie plate.
Oh,
Remember
right.
how that looked like that?
Yeah, I didn't get into that much.
Not good. Not good. All that heat and that aluminum is soft, and that leached all into the popcorn. But there's the hot air poppers.
Right.
That's the healthiest you're going to get is making the popcorn out of the hot air popper. But you also better make sure that it's not GMO corn, because GMOs are on this list as well, and some studies that have gone on overseas over in Europe. So microwave popcorn is the number one on the Nixit list.
Okay.
As far
All right.
as ultimately leading to some severe health challenges. Then you've got the non-organic produce, and I've said it before. You're going to pay for it one way or the other. So you can either spend that extra 25 cents, 75 cents, $1.50 on what is certified organic, and opt out, for the non-organic produce that has herbicides and pesticides and antifungals and growth hormones, and they're irrigated with ditch water that is full of the runoff from all the other farms and stuff, from all of their herbicides and pesticides and antifungals and growth hormones. So, by the time you're down the chain, like Louisiana, you stop and think about the Mississippi and the Missouri River come together, and it goes through the heartland of the United States and spills, comes together and spills out right there in Lake Pontchartrain, and then spills out into the Gulf. So, Lake Pontchartrain, the fish there, 40 years ago, I loved fishing in Lake Pontchartrain, and, we'd come home with big old ice buckets, coolers filled with fish that the fishermen would come in, and they'd be throwing all the fish in the water, and all they wanted was the shrimp.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so the shrimp boats would come in, and finally it was like, hey, guys, you want to toss some of that fish here? No problem. And we lived on fish, and we lived on organic produce that was grown by the little Cajun man that used to come up my street twice a week. And so I really didn't have to spend very much cash, at the grocery store, for, the paper products and
Right.
the laundry soap, but dog food. But other than that, we lived on fish and veggies, living down there. But, hey, that was 40 years ago. And now, that's not something I certainly would not do that now. Because we're 40 years later, we're really into this, we've been through 4 decades of heavy-duty chemical era for agricultural use.
Right.
And there is just way too much concentration of contaminants from that are in those waterways. And so therefore with all the fish, they're not something that I would want to eat. So
Plus with the oil spill that they had down there with BP, with the shrimp like that. You know, I mean, I know that they're shrimping now. You know that the boats are out there, but it still makes me wonder. You know, I mean,
it was catastrophic for a family that I know from Louisiana, and she was just the cutest gal. I had taught a class down there on natural healing, and it was like a week and a half long, and wonderful people in Lafayette, just really, really wonderful. And one gal came up, and she was in class every day. And then she said to me, she says, Dr. Kim, you need to come on down and spend the night at my place. And I says, well, where do you live? And she says, I live on the bayou. And I says, you live on the bayou, huh? And she says, yeah, I live with the alligators. I was like, okay, you live with the alligators? I don't think so. I don't think so. We don't see alligators. And I was living in Lake of the Ozarks at the time when I went down there, and we had a lot of ticks, lots of ticks and chiggers, and a big old dirty lake that I didn't eat the fish out of there either. But
Louisiana was where I learned how to gator hunt.
Yeah,
now, I gator hunted with this crazy old Cajun. Now I can't gator hunt like he gator hunts, because he was one of those old movies, that you would always see in the movies, man.
People.
Oh, they are, man. And they're crazy bastards, too, I mean, because, he'd put that knife in his mouth, man, and he'd jump in the water with them, man, and wrestle him, man, and I was like,
I can
oh,
see
you
it.
crazy.
Yeah, I can see it.
I am not hunting like that.
They are some tough people. They're tough.
No.
One thing that was really cool was I had a lady that lived next door to me, a little Cajun lady, elderly lady, and my son was 2 at the time, and so I would hang out with her a lot, and she taught me how to cook everything, and wow, there was some stuff that, whoa, what they'll eat.
Right.
I watched her prepare, but I opted out of sampling a bowl of it, They eat some scary stuff. They eat some scary stuff for sure. But I did learn. I did learn to make some, quite a few dishes, Cajun dishes that are very, very good. Very, very good. So I like, being raised in an Italian restaurant family. I do not eat at an Italian restaurant. If you call me, invite me somewhere, it's like, I'm not going to an Italian restaurant.
Okay.
It's just like the Cajun food. There was a restaurant up here, up off 92nd and Sheridan in Arvada, Westminster, Colorado, and they closed down. And when I drove by it, it was like, I was wondering when they were going to close down. And it amazed me that they always had a full parking lot, because really for living in Louisiana, I lived in New Orleans and Nolens, and that is where I learned to cook all the Cajun food, and from a very authoritative lady on that cuisine, and I couldn't figure out what the thing was. I just figured the reason the parking lot was full was nobody'd been to Louisiana. They hadn't really had real Cajun food, So so eat organically, pay a little bit extra, because when you tear your system down, what ends up happening is you're going to be sick. You're going to have to pay for a doctor's visit or a copay. You're going to have to get a prescription, or a copay, and or you might be in the hospital, and then there's your copay, and so, one way or the other, and certainly, if it's something that's catastrophic, that is diagnosed with you from a lack of essential fatty acids over the years, a lack of all your minerals and trace minerals, not having enough to function. and the recommended daily allowance.
Right.
It's like iodine. Iodine, the recommended daily allowance in the United States is 150 micrograms, and in Japan it's over 18,000 micrograms. So yeah.
I mean, if you're going to spend your money on something, you might as well do it on something enjoyable, and eating can be enjoyable.
That's right, and eating things that are good, and eating things as close to natural as possible. That is also key. Trying to eat it in its natural state, or steam it. Steamed organic vegetables have they still remain in the alkaline level, okay, in the pH chart. They still remain alkaline. If you do non-organic produce and say you buy it frozen food does not have the nutrient content that fresh does. And then once you if you boil it, there's usually more nutrients in the water you're tossing out. Truly, it's you're throwing all the nutrients out in the water.
Wow.
And then what you've got there is this cooked or overcooked, and a lot of times overcooked, to where there's really not a whole lot of nutrients left in it. It is in the water that you're tossing. So non-organic produce. So out of cancer-causing foods, if you're eating non-organic produce that is laden with herbicides and pesticides and growth hormones and antifungals, you're breaking down your health. Number 3 is canned produce. And especially tomatoes, because tomatoes have they're so high naturally acidic that it breaks down the inside of those aluminum cans. Okay, and then if those cans are lined, if they got that white lining in them, that lining is that's BPA's, and everybody's aware of the BPA and what it does as far as off-gassing and into the foods and liquids. And, what happens is that sets up at receptor sites. And that's where you end up with the xenoestrogens. And we have, we've got Breast Cancer Awareness Month is October. And, everywhere you go, they're wanting you to donate to cancer. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't believe in what mainstream has to offer as far as cancer treatment. And there's things like this with the food and the FDA allowing this to be done. And it goes back to that grass thing. It's generally recognized as safe. It's like, until you have enough of it accumulated on receptor sites, and you get a diagnosis of a hormone-based cancer, which is breast cancer, thyroid cancer, ovarian cancer, uterine cancer, and there's breast cancer and prostate cancer with men.
Right.
So
sure.
These go to hormone receptor sites, and they will create havoc, as well as when you microwave food. The xenoestrogens that are produced there when people are nuking them in the paper that's lined with chemicals, and or they're the other things that are in the sack that's being microwaved, the microwaving itself. And then people put things in styrofoam and plastic.
Right. And
they
nuke that as well.
Yeah, and they nuke them, and a lot of toxins released from there and put into the food, and then you consume the food, and the cell goes, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
what am I supposed to do with this?"
There can be a chemical reaction between your saliva and the aluminum.
Oh, yeah.
One way, like soda here.
Yeah.
I cannot drink soda out of an aluminum can because I've almost drowned twice.
You shouldn't drink it at all.
Well, I know. Well, but this was before I.
Uh-huh.
But I was drinking Pepsi twice on my lunch break, and a chemical reaction happened between the saliva and the aluminum can and the carbonation of the where it had foamed up so quickly and so much, and it foamed down my esophagus, and it basically blocked me off, and I had to Heimlich myself. I basically had to roll down my window, I'm almost suffocating, right? I had to roll down my window, jump through the window, and land on the window part to kind of, oh yeah, to be able to start breathing again. And I had to do that twice. So that's why you'll never, I don't even like to eat vegetables out of a can, out of the cans, because sometimes you'll, you'll just get that slight taste of an aluminum in there. And to me, that's telling you that it's been leaching in there, you know.
Right. And, we know, scientists know what too much aluminum does in the body. It's a neurotoxin. It settles into the brain. It's one of those things that, they're really strongly looking at, as far as dementia and Alzheimer's is the aluminum. Go mad.
Aluminum,
mercury. Mad Hatters, crazy people that used to use the mercury with the felt process with making hats. And, then you stop me to think about the immunizations with the aluminum and the mercury. And, hey, some of those bacteria and stuff that they take, they put into chickens, and there's some pretty really disgusting places as to how they culture that and then put that into a shot and add some thimerosal and some aluminum into that, and it's like, I don't think so. It's like I one time years ago when I was getting a really hard time was being given to me by a pediatrician. I looked at the pediatrician and I said, if you think it's so wonderful, I hope you stick it in your own butt. I did. I got some. That was the nicest thing at that point that I could come up with saying before I picked up my child and walked out. And so considering that later on, the doctors were like, no, you really probably shouldn't inoculate that child, because that was with my handicapped son, because he might end up getting it, and that's what I was told a little bit later, a few years later, so there was a change in the way of thinking, and I was told that in 1978.
Wow.
1978, I was told, no, he will not be inoculated. He could end up getting sick with whatever's in the vaccine. That was 1970. That was 78. So, yeah. So it's just, and we're seeing, I think, more younger doctors that, pediatricians that are okay with it. You sign a release, but again, it's about, if you're going to make those choices, you need to be doing what you need to be doing to guarantee that your home environment is safe and clean, and that your children are eating as healthy as possible. And one thing that's been wonderful about the Denver Front Range that really does and has set us apart from a lot of cities. I have to say, in the late 80s and early 90s, when I was on the lecture circuit and promoting a colostrum product that I had a chewable colostrum product that was, put together in the late 80s and early 90s, and I was ahead of my time on it. Now there's a lot of colostrum products out there, and I'm pretty picky about them, and that's why I do use the one that you can get on kingdomofhealing.com is the colostrum, or the colostrum with immune factors, and that's from an availability standpoint, it's the best one you got going right now. Forget the rest. And I've had them randomly. I've gone in and bought them and sent them to a lab, and a lab that's calibrated for animals because it is from bovine. It doesn't go to a human lab to be tested. It goes to an animal lab, veterinarian lab. And yeah, well, I'm gonna tell you something. Most of them on the shelf out there, save your money. There's no active properties in it, or not high enough active properties in them to make the difference with your immune system. So I've seen it with blood work. I've seen it in the tests of what somebody's blood work was prior being sick, and then administering colostrum, and what goes on with the complete blood count that you take a look at after 24, 48, 72 hours of that colostrum being ingested, and the immune system does start perking up and working, and it is the best food that you can give for it. So I had a colostrum product late 80s, early 90s. If I was ever going to do something again, I would do that again.
Really?
Yeah, because I still have people to this day going, don't you even have like one box somewhere? So no, I don't. No, I don't. What I did have, I'm sorry, I did reserve for my family and friends, and so. But anyway, so back to talking here about the. I guess we were talking about the canned produce and the BPA's, and so that's another thing. You want them organic and fresh or steamed. The next thing, and that is because the canned produce, it's also the lining in the cans. That's that chemical BPA, okay, that's present in that lining. So the food's sitting in it, and then the process of the canning with the high heat and the aluminum. I think that's where we went, the aluminum, and a little sidetracked there.
Sorry.
But no, that's okay. And so, again, forget the canned produce. Processed meats, sausages, hot dogs, bacon, most lunch meat, bologna, pimento loaf. They're loaded with sodium nitrates and nitrites, and ammonia. And ammonia breakdown creates nitrates, sodium nitrate, creates nitrates and nitrites. And these are carcinogenic. And so specifically,
makes everything better.
I know. So you get bacon that is nitrate free.
Okay.
Okay, and there is some of that,
All right.
So that you can get. You can get bacon that's nitrate and nitrite free. There's also turkey bacon that's nitrate and nitrite free. And so those are the things to use. Hot dogs, around my place.
I don't like hot dogs anyway. So.
Well, around my place, it's the Hebrew Nationals.
Okay.
Because my little 8-year-old granddaughter, she loves them. So I will, it's the only ones that she can have is the Hebrew Nationals. And I'll make with a pound of our grass-fed organic beef from our friends in western Nebraska, the ones where they have the goat farm and make all of the goat products and stuff. Up there, that's where we buy our beef. And so then I'll take a pound of that beef and make her a homemade just meat chili to go over that. For her chili cheese dog, And then the cheese she actually likes. She actually likes the grated goat cheese. So, I just get farmer's cheese made from goat milk and shred that over the top of it, and she loves it. So,
right,
no bun. Forget the bun. She doesn't want the bun, which is great, She's just not into the bread, and that's great, so I don't have to buy it. And
right.
the thing is that the grains are so high in gluten, and they're genetically modified that forget it. It's a savings for me, and it's not good for her.
Win-win situation.
Win-win. So the next thing that I want to say about processed meats, buy a turkey breast and bake it. Bake that off. Or if you do get something from the deli, check out how it was cured. Check out what it's packaged in. And you're starting to see more and more delis that have, that you can identify. I mean, it's right there. Yeah, that's a chicken breast. Yeah, that's right there. That's turkey breast.
Right.
And they'll slice those up for you. So that, and all that is just baked.
Okay.
It's baked off. So that's if you're going to do that, that's a good one. Okay, the next one, number 5. Farm-raised salmon and other fish. We see so much farm-raised salmon. 60% of all of the fish out there anymore is all farm-raised. And, a lot of the genetically modified grains, they are making it into our food supply. But let me tell you something. It's saturated. The feed industry, the genetically modified, the GMO grains, that's in the feed.
Right.
It's in the feed to the cattle, it's in the feed to the pigs, it's in the feed to the chickens. That's why, you've got to find a source for things that are raised naturally and in an environment that was conducive to them being healthy. So all of this farm-raised salmon and tilapia, that's another big one, and so they're fed unnatural diets that are saturated in the genetically modified grains. There's also a lot of chemicals that are added to it. They also do a lot of the antibiotics. There's pesticides and other carcinogens. One of the things, too, is that the abnormal conditions that they live in, they have, it's actually very crowded, they have 30 times the number of sea lice all over their bodies.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, I think it was like 2020, did a thing on the fish at your supermarket. The seafood section of your, of the cold area.
Okay.
The meat department. And they put the fish under microscopes. It was awful.
Nasty.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible.
Yuck.
The stuff crawling and moving around in the meat of the fish. It was like, yuck.
Yummy.
Yeah, so so you think about this
I'm sure that
farm-raised
FDA
stuff.
Too, huh?
What was that?
FDA approved.
Probably. Or it's kind of like, that was one thing that I found out when I was having my colostrum manufactured. It was like, the chemist there told me that the majority of supplements out there, if it says 500 milligrams, there could only be 200 milligrams in it. But due to labeling laws, that was okay.
Yes.
And I will say one thing. You go to kingdomhealing.com, anything you buy from that company on there, I'm going to tell you something. Or any company that I'm going to recommend to you of any product, is going to have what they say
Right.
is in it.
Right.
And it's also going to be products that I would not recommend them to you if I didn't give them to my family.
Well, that's good to know.
If I'm not going to take it, and I'm not going to take it to my family, I am not going to recommend it
Right? 'Cause
to anybody.
that's a... You just kind of reminded me of something where... go ask your doctor, especially if you're got cancer, and the doctor is recommending this chemo to you. Go and ask him, would you take this chemo? and
Most of them don't. They take their families out of the country.
yeah, they'll go, absolutely not. Absolutely no, I will not. It's funny.
Big guy wants to tell you the truth.
But boy, you're right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 4 out of 5.
Could I keep a straight face and look him right in the eye? Yes, I would. Yeah.
Right? But, it's kind of, strange that they're so quick to...
Right.
Just
I'm pushing
reminded
on
me
you.
of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, going through a lot of this high intense stress, and I've talked about that before, is high levels of stress in your life constantly and worrying and stuff can also throw the body into acid pH. And, you can be doing a lot of things with your diet and keeping that, consuming a lot of alkaline foods and trying to keep your body out of that acidic condition. But I went through a lot of a really hard thing with my granddaughter, and just lots and lots of worrying, and I still insist that things have totally worked out, and it's all good, and she lives with me, and but I'm going to tell you something. That 14 months of worrying about her emotionally consumed me. Worrying about her and the environment that she was in. And her mom is not my daughter. It's my son's daughter, and he doesn't live around here. And so, the thing is I was diagnosed last year with a inoperable tumor in my liver. And in 3 weeks, I shut that liver down. I mean, the CT scan, that was the end of October last year, and then the end of November, the MRI, they were already like jaw-dropped going, what's going on here? I mean, this is, wow, we've got 3 weeks here between the CT and the MRI. And there's a complete total change with the behavior of this tumor when the imaging the IV, they put the imaging stuff in you, and so there was a difference, total difference in it, and they knew that it was shutting down. Well, I had another CT the middle of last month, and had a meeting with a liver specialist just this past week, and it's absolutely gone. And there's actually nothing even showing there that it was ever there. And and I said to him, it's like, hey, would you like a list of what I did? It's like, nope. You just keep doing what you're doing. This is amazing. And no, we just really don't want to know. So really, I mean, here we've got documentation here. And you don't want to know, it cost me less than $600. I made sure that I got that put in there. It cost me less than $600 in supplements to take care of what I needed to take care of and shut down. Because you know what? I'm too busy. I've got too many plans. Everybody has plans when, they get something catastrophic. But what are you going to do with it? I was like, I'm overcoming this. And nothing's going to get in my way. And that's the mindset. And this is what I'm going to do. And by God, everything that I stuck in my mouth, I made sure that what is the purpose of what's going in my mouth? What's going in my mouth is going to shut down those abnormal cells. And that's exactly what it did. So as my mom would say, you've got to take the bull by the horn, by the
Right.
horns, and and that is what I did. So, so back to this with all this farm raised fish. There's far less omega-3 in all of this fish that is farm raised. So you've got to make sure that when you're purchasing fish, that it's coming specifically that it is wild caught. So wild caught is the key, and wild sockeye salmon is from its natural habitat. So, there are studies have shown that they not only have less omega-3, but the farm-raised salmon and other fish are high in PCBs.
Really?
High in PCBs, mercury, dioxins.
Interesting.
That's in the farm-raised fish. That's what, putting it through testing, analyzing what is in the meat, and that's what they're coming up with. Not enough omega-3.
Could that be the contaminated
oils?
Water is contaminated or
Well,
something
sure.
like that?
Well, sure. And the chemicals that come from the feed mixture that they give them, and then the GMO grains, that's Roundup. Okay, so, they've got that showing up in breast milk, and it's showing up in breast tissue, and it alters the DNA, the GMOs. So the thing with the farm-raised salmon and other fish is the GMO grains are, have saturated the market in the feed department. So, what you eat, how you feed it, and then you consume it. You bring it into your body.
Wow.
So the dioxins. I mean, these are all carcinogenic. PCBs. We've been talking about PCBs for 20 years.
Right.
Yeah. So that is also carcinogenic. The next thing. Let's also talk Salmonella, E. coli, Campylobacter. Another, there's parasites. There's
Yuck.
Squeamish.
Yes.
Yeah,
Nasty.
It's nasty. So anyway, but hey, when 2020 did this thing, farm raised fish was not real common then. It is something that has become much more commonplace today.
Right,
is the
especially
farm-raised.
here. Well, here in Colorado,
Hey,
we
prison
have
facility, Canyon City. They've got a big tilapia farm down there, and
sure.
they got their slave labor. They've got the prisoners, and they don't pay anything for. And it's a big tilapia farm, so it is. It's fed all of these, antibiotics and pesticides and grains that are GMO. And that stuff is, it's being shipped all over the place.
Right.
So it's real and it's happening. So, but what I want to say is, when 2020 did this, that was not common. So even when they were looking at the fish that was for sale in the meat cases, and looking at them under a microscope, there was parasitic activity that was going on. So, yeah, not good. Okay, so the next thing on your cancer-causing foods is potato chips. If you want a potato chip, something nice and crunchy and,
hydrogenated oil.
Yeah, fried in all the hydrogenated oils. You want a baked chip.
Baked?
Get them where they're baked. And, and it's something that, it's what you do the majority of the time that counts. When you do good things the majority of the time, every once in a while you can you're going to have something that you really shouldn't. So if you're going to do that, do the baked chips. Okay. Canola oil. Canola oil is everywhere. I don't use canola oil. I use 3 different level grades of olive oil. And, the really light olive oil you can use in baking. And, in the morning, my 8-year-old granddaughter, she likes homemade pancakes.
Okay.
So I make good homemade ones with aluminum-free, baking powder and Himalayan salt that has, 85 different minerals and trace minerals in it, and, rice flour and some arrowroot, and it, just makes her a beautiful, fluffy pancake. And I use olive oil in that, and then I, put a little bit of oil on the pan, stainless steel pan. But, the thing is that that is nutritious. That oil and butter, your body can break it down, and it delivers, the essential fatty acids and good things for the cardiovascular system, and for the whole body, for the cell. But canola oil is made from, it's called the rapeseed, R-A-P-E, the rapeseed, and
Right.
the rapeseed is toxic.
Interesting.
Read up on the rapeseed. It's toxic.
Well, just the name don't even sound good.
The name doesn't even exactly. Exactly. And then there's the the vegetable oils. And in order to make the vegetable oils, and what they have to go through with that is there's chemicals and things that they have to use in order to break that down to get it into an oil. Okay, so the thing is that that's also carcinogenic. There's acrylamides. Acrylamides are used in the breakdown of that, and you can use some apple chips. Banana chips are really a lot of people like banana chips, but they're pretty high in sugar. A lot of your dehydrated fruits are extremely high in sugar, and those should be reconstituted with water. Okay, with high alkaline water, and reconstitute those so that it knocks that sugar level down, because they're really dehydrated fruit is very, very high, and you never want dehydrated fruit that has sulfur dioxide on it either, because that's a toxin, sulfur dioxide.
Okay.
That is usually used to as a preservative for dehydrated fruits and vegetables. So you want to buy them that are sulfur free. So potato chips, again, the high temperatures frying that they use to create that crispiness on that potato chip. The oils that are being used are not healthy at all, and so you want to look for like a baked potato chip. The hydrogenated oils, the vegetable oils that are not naturally extracted, like butter and olive oil, they're chemically removed, and they're deodorized as well, and they add color to it to look good. And they're really high in omega-6, and so we hear about omega-3, omega-6, omega-9.
Right.
Well, 3 and 9 are okay to be a little bit higher, but omega-6s need to be low. And they do occur, omega-6 usually occurs with omega-3 and 9 as well. High levels of omega-6 is not good for your health. So, something that's got omega-3 and 9 in it cannot have a high amount of 6. So you're going to get high amounts of 6 in the vegetable oils. And high amounts of omega-6 leads to heart disease and cancer, especially skin cancers. So you need a balance of 3 and 6. 3 can be higher. Grass-fed meats are good sources of natural omega-3. Wild salmon and mackerel are also excellent sources of food-based omega-3s, but they're in low amounts. Not the 3. The 3 is in high amounts, 6 is in low amounts. So hydrogenated oils, what they do is when you take those into the body, hydrogenated oils inhibit the flexibility of your veins and your cell membrane. So the reason that we want to do like a fish oil or, the omega fish oils, salmon oil, and really what I prefer and what we use is krill oil.
Oh, okay.
We use krill oil. You don't need as much, and it's actually another benefit of krill oil is it's high antioxidant. It's also antioxidant. So it permeates the cell better than like the salmon oils. And by permeating the cells with the omega oils, it keeps that cell wall soft so that it is flexible, so that the nutrients can make their way into the cell. It doesn't do any good to take nutritional supplements if you have this horrible diet and the cell wall is not permeable, and that there's not flexibility and permeability into the cell membranes as well as the veins. So, the hydrogenated oils, the vegetable, the canola. I don't even use sunflower oil.
Interesting. Okay.
So if I'm in a pinch, if I'm omega-6 high, and just the process that they've got to do in it. So you want to cook with olive oil. That's what I said. I've got 3 different variation levels of olive oil.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of olive oil.
When I'm whipping it out and I'm going to cook, I got the strong aromatic olive oil. You're going to know olive oil is in it. So, but, when you're baking, you don't want that overpowering olive oil. You want the light, cold pressed, organic is what I buy. And, it's again, it costs a little more. You watch for things that are on sale, buy things when they're on sale. They'll do well by keeping them in the refrigerator. If you've got some space for them. If they're on sale and you buy more than you need immediately or for the next couple of weeks, and so that's another way of making it happen with purchasing things that you need to have in your home for staples for feeding your family. So, but okay, the next thing, number 8, is the nitrates and the nitrites. And that's used as a preservative as well as adding color to meat. These 2 chemicals change to the N. The N in it means nitroso. This causes a greater increase in developing cancer. Highly salted, pickled, smoked foods. So smoked meats and nuts also absorb high amounts of tar that the smoke produces. And so the tar is carcinogenic, in the smoked meats and the smoked nuts. Okay, so your nuts should always be raw.
Okay.
Nuts should always be raw, unsalted. When they're raw, nuts will come in at 5.5, so it's a little acidic. 5.5 to 7.0. 7.0 is okay. That's a good margin to be in. But if you toss salt on it, especially if you put, salted nuts, they're salted down with sodium chloride with
right.
regular table salt. that, kind of like the sugar that's processed at 2,500 degrees, salt's processed at over 1,500. So there's no nutrients, there's no minerals or trace minerals left with it either. It's white, it's dead. It's just sodium chloride. And too much of that in the cell, and you're going to pull extra water into the cell, and then pretty soon you've got swelling, you've got edema going on, and that's how it happens. So the N in the nitrates and the nitrites are carcinogenic, and the highly salted foods and smoked foods, the tar that's left behind on them from the smoking process with the meats and the nuts. So all of this is carcinogenic. These foods overwhelmingly will increase your risk of stomach and colon rectal cancer. And Japan is the highest rate of stomach and colon cancer. So stop and think about, really, they have a diet traditionally that's high in smoked fish and salty foods. There's soy sauce. Soy sauce may be fermented, which is really, if you're going to have soy, it has to be non-GMO and it has to be fermented. If your soy is not, that for a fact, is not, genetically modified soybean, and if it's not fermented, you're not eating it. And it should only be in small amounts, because soy will inhibit the production of thyroxine from the thyroid. So, the Japan has the highest rate of stomach and colon cancer, and that's due to these smoked and highly salted foods. Okay, number 9 is white flour, and and I've said this before. First off, if you're going to get rid of things, if you throw out too much all at once, if you keep throwing out pretty much, you'll be cutting out paper dolls. You'll go crazy. So start with things that are white. The white sugar, the white flour, the salt, I guess. Yeah, most people can't handle it. So, my husband thought I was crazy. When he came home, I'd cleaned everything out. I had boxes in the living room, cooking up all this meat that we had bought, because 1980, everything being written was like, meat was terrible for you, so we just bought a side of beef. I was cooking that all up. The dogs loved it. They loved it. My mom called, and, I told her what I had done, and she says, oh, well, my secretary, I bet he would like to have that. And it's like, Mom, I'm throwing it away. Well, my secretary's got a family. He would really like that. It's like, Mom, did you hear what I'm saying? And it's like, I've been reading about all this stuff, and we are not eating this stuff. And so why would I want to give it away to somebody else to eat? So I did not give her that food. I threw it away. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to kill my family. I'm not going to kill you.
Really, it's true. It's like, if I'm not going to feed it to my family, I'm not going to serve it to you. I'm not going to give it to you either. Maybe if you needed it a week ago or a month ago before I knew, then I could have given it to you because I didn't know any better. But white flour, the process that all of this white flour goes through, it's completely stripped of its B complex and all of its other vital nutrients. So the flour mills, that's another thing. The flour mills don't wait for it to whiten with time, so they bleach it with chlorine gas. So the next time you scoop up a cup of white flour, know that it was bleached with chlorine gas.
Yeah.
Which is a dangerous irritant. And if it's inhaled in, chlorine gas, if it's inhaled in large amounts, it's lethal. It'll kill you. My goodness, we're just down to a few minutes here. Well, the next thing is this high glutamic gluten that is in the wheat, the digestive tracts, it's abnormal. And converts to sugar. Sugar feeds tumors, feeds cancer cells. Baked cells are not where you want to be with raising money for cancer. So another thing at the beginning, we've only made it to 10. Next time we'll go through the other ones, but I just want to say, please look up where this money goes that is being asked for in contributions with this Komen, Susan Komen. A lot of it is not making it where you think as far as for research, and there's not enough. My gosh, by now they would have a cure. So you really need to think about it. You really need to think about it. So, and it's all out there. The information is there. You can find it.
Oh yes, it is.
And that's all the time that we have today. And so next week we'll start out with talking about GMOs and refined sugar and artificial sweeteners and all that fat-free stuff that is horrible. So we'll talk about that next time. Take care. Have a good week. You've been listening to Kingdom of Healing, and you can locate the website at kingdomofhealing.com. And this is Kim Mateo. Take care.